Hi everyone, we're going to be combining these two photos here and creating a duotone double exposure in today's tutorial. So stick around if you want to figure out how to do that with Photoshop and Lightroom. For step 1 today, we're going to be finding an image. I recommend using unsplash.com as it hosts a bunch of royalty-free images you can use without copyright charges. This specific effect, you do need a black and white photo, and so I chose this image of this lady looking to the side for more depth and contrast. So the second step is to upload the first image into Photoshop. So here I'm just using the dragged effect in which I pull it into Photoshop, but you're welcome to just go into File and open the image into the Photoshop application. And so for step 3, we're going to upload the second image into Photoshop, and in order to create this effect right here, we're going to drag the second image into Photoshop on top of the first one, and we're going to use Command T in order to adjust the size and fit it accordingly, and so it fits to the canvas. Here you can see that I've completely fit it onto the canvas, and for step 4 we're going to adjust the RGB channels, so that's the red, green, and blue channels. We're going to open the image and we're going to unselect red or uncheck green in order to play around with the settings to see which colors you really do like. And so for this one, I really enjoyed the red and blue process, but all the other images are pretty cool too. And so this really is a process in which you get to play around with it and be creative, which is really fun. And so here I am just playing around with the colors, and I really like the effect of the green and the pink, and so I decided to stick with that. So using Command T at any moment given, you could easily just fit the canvas to your size and make sure that you're really just getting the effect that you want. And so I dragged it over the model's eyes. And so once I'm done with that, I'm going to be moving on to step 5, in which we create some basic adjustments in Photoshop. And here I'm just going to be adjusting the brightness and contrast of the image in order to bring out some more details and to make the colors really pop. I really like the effect of a high contrast look. It makes the colors really stand out, and so I chose to intensify that. And here I'm bringing up the exposure a little bit. And so this really is dependent on your own image and what you really like in terms of editing style. For me, I think that the high contrast look really looks good with a lot of color, and here I really chose to bring up the vibrance and the saturation in order to make it more intense and more colorful, which is really cool. I really like the color pop effect. And so here's something that's really cool about this effect. If you go into hue and saturation, you're able to drag the slider and pick which color you actually really like. And for me, I played around with the different colors and I ended up settling on this really vibrant red and blue, in which I thought that this was an excellent combination that really brought out the colors in this duotone effect. And here you can see that I'm playing around with the saturation and the lightness sliders, and this really is dependent on your photo. Once again, you can adjust it based on your preference and your need. For here, I really like the way that the lightness brought out the colors and the vibrancy of the reds and the blues, and I ended up deciding on that. Now that we're done the basic adjustments, we're going to save it as a JPEG, and in order to retain the quality, we're going to save it at maximum quality and press OK. And then we're going to pull it into Lightroom. So for step 6, we're going to continue editing in Lightroom, and the reason why I chose to bring it into Lightroom is because there's a lot of effects that Lightroom has in order to enhance the color quality that Photoshop doesn't, in my opinion. And so here in Lightroom, I'm going to continue with some basic adjustments. I'm going to go ahead and bring down the whites and the blacks. Yeah, and here I'm just going to pull down the clarity a little bit and adjust the vibrance, and go ahead and go into the channels and adjust the highlights, lights and darks and shadows accordingly depending on how you like it. With the hues, it's really cool because in Lightroom you're able to adjust any of the colors individually, and with the luminance you can control how bright and dark it is. And as I go down, I like to look at the vignetting and the shadows for the colors. And so once again, this is all really dependent on what colors that you like. And once you zoom in, if you use the radial effect, you're able to go in and actually adjust the colors specifically in the radial. And so here I'm just putting the radial on her eye and her pupil, and I'm just adjusting the sharpness of that. and so here you can see it got much sharper. And this really just does bring out the detail in her eye and make the color and the focus on it much sharper. And another tip you can do is use the brush tool and just really adjust things. And so there I adjusted the softness of it. One thing I really like about the brush tool is how focused and how much more precision you can get with it. And so here, by selecting the soften skin tool, I can really get into the grooves of her skin and really see the impact that I'm changing in order to make this edit more to my preference. And so with the brush tool, you're able to choose whatever selection that you want. Here I thought that the soften tool made the effect stand out much better, and I just focused that on her face. And so once you are done, continue to step 7, which you get to do your final export, and go ahead to save that to whichever folder you want, and feel free to save it as a JPEG form, and make sure you increase your quality to the best that you can, and you are all finished. And so for a little comparison of a Photoshop before and after Lightroom, you can really see that the Lightroom brought out the colors and the intensity of the image, and here is the final finished product of the Duotone Effect. And so I really do hope you guys are able to try this out for yourself. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this Duotone Effect tutorial, and can't wait to see all of your products if you do create them.